Hey, what's going on YouTube? So today I'm going to showcase my endgame off-meta Bobo Stamina Dragonknight build updated for the Necrom and Update 39 DLC patch. This build is capable of pulling over 117k on the parse dummy and is viable for most group content. As with all endgame builds, this will be a group focused build that revolves around using trial or best in slot gear, so it's not a beginner or solo friendly build. Furthermore, please use these builds as a baseline, as different situations and groups will require different gear sets and skills. With that being said, here we go. So as per usual, starting off in the character sheet, I have 64 points into stamina, and I'm running the Thief Mundus. For the race, because we are a stamina build, we are using Dark Elf. I think Dark Elves have some of the best passives. For the food, you have a few different options, but for end content, I would suggest RTM Takeaway Broth. A cheaper and almost just good alternative would be Dubious Cameron Throne. And lastly, if you're parsing, you could probably get away with green food, but for the parse, I chose to use Lava Foot Soup and Salt Rice. As for the potions, we're just sticking the essence of weapon power. You can slot degen and then put Camel Hunter on the back bar to run heroism or tri-stat potions if you'd prefer that instead. So for CP for the blue tree, we're going to be running Exploiter, Deadly Aim, Thaumaturge, and Wrathful Strikes. Swap out Exploiter if you don't have access to off balance or you need more crit damage. Fighting Finesse and Backstabber, depending on the situation, are very viable choices. For the red tree, we have Celerity, Rejuve, Fortified, and Balanced Vitality. You can literally run whatever you want instead of Celerity. So for the gear, we're going to be running 2 arena weapons paired with Zon, Harpooners, Reliquin, and 2-piece crit chance set. So for the main hand, we have a Vadishran Perfected Bow charged with a flame damage enchant. On the back bar, Masters Perfected Bow infused with a weapon damage enchant. For the head and shoulders, we're running 2 pieces of Zons in Divines with max dam. For 4 pieces of the body, we're running Reliquin, all Divines, max dam. And 1 piece of the jewelry just to pair the 5-piece. This is Bloodthirsty with a weapon damage enchant. For the leg slot, we're just running Kilt, Divines with max dam, and 2 pieces of Briarheart, both traded in Bloodthirsty with weapon and spell damage enchants. It doesn't have to be Briarheart, it could be anything with the 2-piece crit chance line. And lastly, for the skills, we're running Acid Spray. This is a decent AoE. On top of that, it'll proc the poison on the enemy for 5 seconds or 4 seconds after you cast it. It's also a good utility skill to bar swap off of because Lethal Arrow can get kind of finicky. Lethal Arrow, our spammable, also gets empowered by our point blank snipe. Venomous Claw, standard DK dot. Noxious Breath, another standard DK dot. This does proc Major Breach, not that you'll need it in group content, but for other scenarios this can be kind of nice. Flames of Oblivion, this gives us access to Major Prophecy and Savagery, and also is a pseudo AoE spammable. Dawnbreaker for the Fighters Guild passives on the front bar as our ultimate. On the back bar, Endless Hail, typical bow back bar dot. Poison Injection, this is to proc our Masters and also works as kind of like an execute. It does increase damage based on enemies that have 50% or less health. Eruption, standard DK dot. Scalding Rune, this is kind of like our flex spot, but this is a Mage Guild dot. It does good damage. You can always flex this out for whatever you may need. And Barb Trap, because we do need minor force and procs tons of hemorrhaging, meaning it actually does really good damage. And Standard Might, our ultimate. Try to time this when all of your dots are down. So for the rotation, we're running a dynamic rotation, meaning we're going to be recasting our dots as they expire and using spammables in between when we have nothing better to cast. So the priority for dots would be Poison Injection, Barb Trap, Venomous Claw, Endless Hail, Flames of Oblivion, Eruption, Noxious Breath, Scalding Rune, and Acid Spray. Our spammable is Lethal Arrow, and then whenever all of our dots are down and we have standard, you could just drop that. As I said earlier, Dawnbreaker is slotted for the passives, and try not to bar swap off of Lethal Arrow too much. It does kind of slow the rotation down because it is a weird finicky channeled skill. If you want a more digestible semi-static rotation, you can cast Venomous Claw and Noxious Breath together, and then basically cast everything except for your Endless Hail on your back bar together. So this is Scalding Rune, Poison Injection, Eruption, and Barb Trap, and it should be a little bit easier to maintain. So for closing thoughts, if you want a flex spot or a flex skill, Scalding Rune is definitely the first to go, so you can swap that out for anything you may need instead. As far as gear alternatives, for the bow, you can choose to run Maelstrom Bow instead of either of the bows. That would be perfectly fine as well. As far as gear sets, instead of Reliquing, you can run one of the standard medium armor sets, such as Venomous Smite or Pillar of Nirn if you want a proc set, and Kinra, Briarheart, and even Order's Wrath are all solid choices as well. And I think that wraps it up. As always, thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below, or better yet, come join our Discord. Link is in the description. I will have a written guide linked in the description for those who would prefer that instead. And as always, thank you to my YouTube members. If you want to help me support my content creation, please consider becoming a member. And as always, thanks again, and see you in the next one.